But then Chris goes to Antarctica, or not Antarctica. He goes to it might be Antarctica. I can't be sure. He goes to somewhere really fucking cold, and I'm not entirely sure where he goes. With his new partner Jessica, and they go through some bullshit there, and then learn that Jill is missing. So then he goes out to look for Jill on this ship that she's supposedly missing on. Goes there, goes through this heavily infested bullshit through the whole ship, only to find that it's a twin sister ship of the ship Jill's on, so he's on the wrong ship. And then they eventually end up on the same ship together and fucking go through all this bullshit and get to the final boss and take it down together. Jill and Chris both team back up. Yep. Then then Jill and Chris go together on the Lost in Nightmares DLC for Resident Evil 5 that takes place in 2007, I believe. And that's when Jill goes presumed dead along with Wesker after they go through the bullshit at Umbrella's founder, Oswell E. Spencer's mansion in the UK. Jill ends up presumed dead, and so does Wesker, and Chris is the only one left there after going through the outbreak in Spencer's mansion and everything. Then 2009 is when Chris teams up with Sheva in West Africa, and they fucking go through all the bullshit in RE5. Too bad they didn't have a better location or better enemies or better supporting characters in RE5. It could have been a lot better. This Sheva's fucking stupid. So bad they basically retconned her out. There's no mention of her in any way at all in Resident Evil 6. There aren't even in files or dialogue, any dialogue or files that reference Resident Evil 5. Just act as though Chris did everything in 5 by himself.
Oh yeah?
Which he probably could have, but they probably should have done it that way. Or if they were going to have it be co-op, have it be Chris and Jill and not have bothered with the whole Sheva thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, he goes through the bullshit in 5. And then he goes through some more missions in between, and then that's when he goes to Resident Evil 6 in 2013. That's 2012 to 2013 is when 6 takes place. It starts in 2012 and then kind of ends in 2013. Something like that. And he starts out with his mission in Adonia, which is another Eastern European country that's in full bioterror war. And then that's when he ends up getting amnesia. And then he gets brought back in for the outbreak in China while still having amnesia before he starts getting his memory back and everything and remembers all of his history. And then finishes out the events of 6. But yeah, Chris has got the most appearances and missions of any Resident Evil character. But yeah, Parker in Revelations, he's got a line of dialogue that I've always remembered that I fucking loved because it was perfect. There's this big fucking like mutated turtle fucking boss you gotta fight on the ship. As Jill with Parker there with you, and it's such a huge pain in the ass, and you fight it through like different levels of the ship and everything before you guys finally kill it, and then when you do, Parker's just like, God, what a pain in the ass piece of shit. It's like, yeah, no shit. Like, couldn't have said that better myself, Parker. I like you. I've decided. And he says it like so fucking like, Jesus Christ, it's about fucking time. Parker Luciani. It's Chris's fucking partner, his new partner, Jessica, whatever the fuck her name was in Revelations. She ends up being a traitor that they end up killing anyway. Yeah. But so far as I know, Parker only makes the appearance. Like, I mean, I've basically played every one. I know he doesn't appear in any other main ones, but I wonder, like, so far, Parker's only made the one appearance, and that's Revelations. It'd be cool to see him again. Like, I'm not saying he should star in a game. He's kind of more of a supporting character, but he should be in another game. Not just Revelations, and then that's it.
Yeah.
I never actually got to finish Revelations. Catnip did. Now I know how it ends, plus I've looked into it more, but I only got to the part where you play as Chris and go to the other ship, thinking that's the one Jill's on, before you realize there's more than one ship. I got done with that part, right where you go back to playing as Jill. Like, because the way it does that, too, is, like, Jill and Parker are about to drown, because they're in the fucking under some bulkheads in their ship. Like, getting sealed off, about to drown, and right before you find out whether they're going to drown or not, it switches perspective to where you're playing as Chris in on the other ship, like, to where it's like, oh, but you're no inclination that it's a different ship at all. You think it's the Queen Zenobia, and then you're fucking going through it, and it's identical, but there's way more enemies, it seems like. You're like, this is weird. And there's some doors unlocked already that's like, who unlocked these? These ones were locked. I didn't have the key cards to these yet. How's Chris getting through here? And then you go to the room where Jill and Parker are drowning. And they kind of wrote it perfectly. So you go there thinking you're going to rescue Jill and Parker in the nick of time, and there's nothing there. There's a big ambush of creatures, and then there's nobody there at all. And then Chris and Jessica go back out to the deck of the ship, and then they've got, you know, BSAA teams there and everything, helicopters flying around, and then helicopter spotlight goes over the name of the ship, and it doesn't say Queen Zenobia, it says Queen something else. And that's when Chris is getting radioed. It's being told that there's multiple ships, like it's a sister ship, that there's actually four of those identical ships.
Right.
And that Jill's not on this one, she's on the Queen Zenobia. And then that's when Chris and Jessica get set to go to that one. And then that's when I got back to Control as Jill and Parker, and I played a little bit ahead from that point, and then I never continued with it. Not because I hated it or anything, I actually really liked the Revelations. I just didn't continue with it. One thing I didn't like about Revelations, is it's a little more horror focused. Like, and yeah, it is a little scarier, whatever. But the little more horror focused aspect of it, you get a lot less ammo and shit.
Right.
And you have a carrying limit on ammo. The inventory works weird in Revelations, and you have a max carry capacity for each caliber of ammo. And you can only carry like 2 guns at a time, or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. And there's no sprint. There's you can kind of sprint, but it's like basically slightly slower than Leon's sprint speed in RE4. It's right around that speed, maybe a little slower, but there's no actual sprint, and limited ammo. Melee is way downplayed from the more recent Resident Evil games that came out around that time and up till now and shit. There is still melee, but like knifing is kind of weird, and fucking hand-to-hand. Each character only has one hand-to-hand attack, but they have like a signature hand-to-hand move that you have to stun enemies is the problem. And the way the enemies are in that game, they're extremely hard to stun, to set up a hand-to-hand. But then you can charge your hand-to-hand attack, and if you full charge it, you do like a full-on Falcon punch state of your hand-to-hand attack and just kill whatever you're hitting outright.
Okay.
Is that all? Thank you. Not enough cash, stranger.
But that's why, like, you play as Parker a little bit, especially in the Terra Grigia incident flashback, because Parker was actually there. He's one of the people who was at that. But, like, there's the raid mode, which is Revelations and Revelations 2 have instead of Mercenaries mode. And it's kind of a different take on Mercenaries. Raid mode's quite a bit different. I mean, it's sort of the same concept, but not really.
Right.
But you can actually, that's the only co-op in Revelations. There's no co-op story mode. You can only play raid mode together, which is fun, but limiting. But you can unlock a lot of the characters from the campaign and shit. Even some that you wouldn't expect as raid mode characters. And Parker is one of the ones that you would expect, and yes, he is a raid mode playable. And I actually liked Parker in the raid mode. Like, I liked him in the story, and then playing as him in raid mode, he had some good gear, and that axe does some damage. Gives you some viable melee power. Because, yeah, it's like a double-bladed axe.
Okay.
That he wears on his back, but it's kind of meant to be a one. He only uses it one-handed. Like roughly the size of like a dwarven walking axe from fucking Lord of the Rings, but with a double head.
Right.
And he uses it with one hand. And it's a very modern axe. It doesn't look like an old school medieval weapon. It's like high modern materials and shit. And then I've never actually played Revelations 2. I know who's in it and the plot of it and everything that happens from talking to Kat and reading about it, but I've never actually personally played Revelations 2.
Yeah.
That one has got Claire Redfield again after another long absence of Claire. She goes on some pretty long hiatuses from being a featured character. But it's got Claire in it, and then the other, because every Resident Evil game does two protagonists.
Oh boy.
The other one is fucking Barry Burton from the first game, with his first like starring playable role is in Revelations 2.
Oh.
Did you make it to Salazar's boss fight?
Yeah.
Told you got to fight the other Vertigo, but in a different kind of way. Kind of assimilated.
Fuck that. I'd be shitting my pants.
Yeah, speaking of shit Leon goes through.
Monsters. Guess after this, there'll be one less to worry about.
Yeah, he says, monsters. After this, one will be less to worry about. What? Who the fuck says that?
The guy who can handle that situation. Clearly. After you beat Salazar, you'll actually finally be done with the castle, by the way. Well, I mean, there's a little bit more, but there's no more fighting after Salazar.
Yeah, I figured as much since he's kind of the, owner.
Yeah. He's the end of area boss for the castle. And then you'll be at the